I was coming back from Sweetwater, half a tank left and dust in my mouth, when I saw it. Her truck. Or rather, my truck, the one I'd let Jolene drive ever since hers broke down 2 months back. Parked off the side of the service road near the old pecan grove. No reason for it to be there. No call from her. No flat tire. Just sitting there. Engine off. Windows fogged. And I swear to God something in my chest went cold and stayed there. I pulled off behind them, real slow. Shut off my own engine. Just listened. Silence. No birds. No wind. Just a sound I knew all too well. Liars holding their breath. I got out and walked. Gravel underboots. Step by step. I came up on the passenger's side. And there she was. Jolene. Hair down. Shirt half open. Smiling like she'd forgotten the man she'd sworn her life to. And him. Roy Maddox. Big bastard. Worn Levi's. Pearl snap shirt. Left hand on the steering wheel. Right hand on her leg. He was saying something low. She laughed. Then leaned in. Their foreheads touched. Then their lips. I didn't think. I ripped the door open so hard it slammed into the frame. Roy barely had time to turn his head before I grabbed him by the collar and yanked him clean out of the truck. He hit the ground hard. Dust flew. You son of a bitch. I screamed, fist already swinging. One landed. Then another. He tried to cover. Rolled. Punched back. Caught me in the ribs. I didn't care. I threw him against the bumper. He staggered. I charged again, tackled him down into the brush. We were rolling. Punching. Cussing like animals. Jolene screamed. Eli. Stop. She jumped out, grabbing my arm, pulling me off. You're crazy. What the hell are you doing? I turned on her, eyes wide. What the hell am I doing? I'm your husband. Roy got to his knees, coughing blood. You need help, Turner. I pointed straight at him, eyes burning. I swear to Christ, Roy, I'm gonna burn your goddamn ranch to the ground. Voices came. Field hands. From Roy's spread just over the hill. They'd seen the fight. 2 of them pulled me back. Eli, stop. You'll kill him. Let go of me. I barked. He deserves worse. But they held firm. Roy stood, wiped his mouth, blood on his chin. He looked at me with a calm that made my stomach turn. She came to me, he said. Don't get mad, 'cause she found someone who listens. That was it. I lost it. I broke free and charged. They tackled me before I got to him again. Jolene was crying now, but I didn't look at her. I didn't see her anymore. They dragged me to my truck. I slammed the door behind me. I sat there, breathing hard, knuckles cut, chest heaving, heart broken clean in half. But I wasn't gonna cry. No, sir. I was gonna fight. By the time I got home, I'd already made up my mind. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't wait for some lame excuse. I went straight into the bedroom, grabbed every piece of her clothing, every framed photo of us, every memory I could carry, and threw them onto the front lawn. Neighbors saw. Good. Let them talk. I poured gas on it all. Didn't light it, not yet. Just stood there, daring her to come home. When she finally did, around midnight, she pulled up slow. I was still sitting on the porch, rifle in my lap. She didn't get out of the car. I didn't move. She rolled down the window. Eli, please. Get off my land, Jolene. She shook her head. I just want to talk. I saw all I needed to. Now leave. Where do I go? I stood. Walked toward the pile of her things. I don't give a damn if you sleep in a ditch. I kicked the duffel bag off the porch. Take your shit and go. She stared at me. Eyes red, face streaked with tears. Eli, you're scaring me. Good. I went back to the porch. She didn't say another word. Just put the truck in reverse and drove off into the dark. And I just sat there. Alone. With a storm building in my chest. And one thought circling like buzzards over roadkill. You picked the wrong man to betray, Jolene. And Roy Maddox? He just started a war. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of the dog barking and a truck engine humming outside. I stepped onto the porch. Jolene's brother, Danny, was parked by the fence, engine still running. I'm just here to say one thing, he said. She spent the night in a motel. She's got nowhere to go. She's still your wife, Eli. 12 years. I walked down the steps, slow and steady, locked eyes with him. She was my wife, I said. Now she can sleep with the man she rode in a truck with. Roy's not perfect, but you're crossing a line. Me, I said, walking right up to the hood of his truck. He screwed my wife, Danny. I slammed my fist down on the metal. And I'm going to burn down everything he touches. 2 hours later, I was in my barn with Buck Hardy, retired vet, old friend, and a man who knew every corner of this county. I want every name tied to Maddox, I told him. Vendors, drivers, millers, I want to know who's keeping him running. Buck hesitated. You sure about this, Eli? I nodded once. He gave me 10 names. By sunset, I'd already made my first 2 calls. I offered to double their rates if they dropped Maddox. One said yes. The other said he'd think about it, but I heard the hesitation in his voice. I knew he'd cave. That night, under the shed light, I met with 3 Mitchum boys. Rough hands, dirt under the nails, hungry for money and chaos. $500, I told them, to bust up Maddox's irrigation on the south field. Another $200 if you flood the barley. Done, the oldest said. But if we get caught, we don't know you. Then don't get caught. By morning, the damage was done. Maddox's workers showed up to standing water and busted valves. Word got back to me before noon. He's furious, my informant said. Said your name more than once. Good. But I didn't stop there. I started spreading rumors, casual conversations at the feed store, the gas pump, church parking lots. Hey, you hear about the wheat Maddox is selling? Word is, might be mold in it. Bad batch. Real bad. By the time it made it down Main Street, folks were asking questions. Then I went to Hank Lowry, the man who ran the local grain mill. I'll sell you my feed crop at half price if you cut Roy off, I said. You two feuding? He asked. I'm settling a debt. Hank chewed the edge of his pen, then nodded. Long as I'm not dragged into court, you got a deal. Sunday night, I sat on my porch, glass of bourbon in hand, when headlights rolled up my driveway. Black SUV. Roy Maddox stepped out. You gonna shoot me? He asked. Thought about it, I said, sipping slow. I came to end this. Then go ahead and die. Roy stepped closer. I get it. You're angry. I crossed a line. No, I cut him off. You drew the line. With my wife. With your damn hands down her jeans. You think you've never made a mistake? He asked. I think I don't sneak around with another man's wife. He looked past me, at the house, the land. You got kids, Eli. And you made sure they'd never look at their mama the same. He didn't say another word. Got back in his truck. And I stood there, bourbon burning down my throat like fire, thinking. This is just the start. Next day, my ranch hand Nate rode up. You hear about Maddox's cattle? I shook my head. 5 dead. That says it's poisoning. I didn't smile. Didn't nod. Just walked back toward the barn. By now, the whole county was talking. Some folks sided with Roy. Most kept their heads down. But me? I was just getting warmed up. 2 weeks crawled by like a rattlesnake across hot stone, slow, tense, and coiled with venom. I didn't hear from Jolene. Didn't see Roy. But I felt them both, like a pair of shadows pressing against the walls of my home. Then the first real strike landed. A letter showed up on my kitchen table. Not by mail, delivered, hand to hand, by some wet-behind-the-ears legal runner who wouldn't even look me in the eye. Inside, a cease and desist. Roy Maddox was suing me. Defamation. Intentional sabotage. Economic harm. And for good measure, emotional distress. The bastard actually wrote in the complaint that I threatened the community's harmony. I folded the letter real slow, laid it next to my coffee, and stared at the steam rising from the mug. If Roy wanted a court fight, he was going to get scorched earth. I drove 2 counties over to see Clay Brimmer, a lawyer so mean, the bar tried to revoke his license twice and failed both times. Clay ran his practice out of an old barbershop he never bothered to remodel. Still had a cracked mirror behind his desk. I want his name in the dirt, I told him. I want folks to spit when they say it. Clay didn't blink. He just leaned back, laced his fingers behind his head, and grinned. You want public pain? I want a war they'll talk about at the diner for the next 10 years. He cracked his knuckles. Then you came to the right bastard. Within 48 hours, Clay had drafted a counter lawsuit so thick you could beat a man with it. Adultery, alienation of affection, harassment, fraud, loss of income. And just for spice, we named Jolene in the filing too. Let her feel what it's like to be dragged into the light. The papers hit Maddox's lawyer's desk like a thunderclap. And the next day, I started getting the looks. At the co-op, 2 guys wouldn't make eye contact. At church, folks slid down the pew like I'd grown horns. But others, well, others stepped a little closer. One woman I hadn't spoken to in 5 years showed up with a peach cobbler. Everyone's acting polite, she said, but most of us think you're doing what a real man ought to. But war costs. Court filings, private investigators, property security, none of it came cheap. I had to sell one of my John Deere tractors and lay off 3 seasonal hands. The ranch got quieter. Empty, almost. The fields didn't complain, but I heard it in the wind and in the silence of my kids. One night, the silence broke. Jolene pulled up the drive in a borrowed Ford, headlights off, hoping I wouldn't see her coming. I saw. I stepped out onto the porch with my shotgun resting on the railing, unloaded, but she didn't need to know that. She stood at the bottom step, arms crossed. I didn't come to fight. Then don't talk. I want to see the kids. You'll see him in court. She didn't move. Her voice cracked. I don't have anywhere else to go. That's not my problem anymore. I made a mistake, Eli. He wasn't what I thought. Too bad you figured that out with your pants off. She flinched. But I didn't. You left. You lied. You lost. Now go. She turned and left. Didn't cry. Didn't plead. And for the first time since I found her in that truck, I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing. 3 days later, I got a court summons. Roy was petitioning for emergency custody of my children. Claimed my ranch was unsafe. Said I was mentally unstable. Accused me of threatening Jolene with violence, and Roy, too. He even had a screenshot of some anonymous Facebook post claiming I'd hired thugs. Hell, he wasn't wrong, but it wasn't his business to prove it. I called Clay. He laughed. Let me cook. The court date hit like a summer hailstorm, fast, loud, and damaging. Roy didn't even show up. Sent his lawyers, all polished and soft-spoken, pretending to care about the emotional trauma of a broken home. Clay tore them apart. Brought in the school counselor, the kid's teacher, even the sheriff, who, under oath, had to admit no formal complaints had ever been filed against me. The judge ruled in our favor. The kids stayed with me. Jolene got supervised visitation, twice a month. When the gavel dropped, Clay leaned over and whispered, "One bullet dodged. Now let's go hunting." Outside the courthouse, I stood in the sun, hands on my belt, breathing deep. Victory didn't feel like joy. It felt like a breath between battles. And I could feel Roy watching even from a distance. The next move? It wouldn't be in court. It'd be in the dark. And I'd be ready. The day after court, I knew I had to hit harder. Legal wins were nice, but Roy Maddox didn't bleed easy. And I was tired of playing by rules written by rich men. So I made a call. The guy's name was Digger. Old war buddy of my cousin's, now ran with a biker crew out of Wichita Falls. Mean as hell. Sharp as a rusted nail. We met in the back of an abandoned auto shop. He wore a leather vest and smelled like gasoline and menthols. "I heard you got a rat problem," he said, lighting a cigarette. I passed him an envelope. "Roy Maddox," I said. "I want his barn to screen." He counted the bills. 10 grand, all cash. Quiet job. Loud enough for headlines. He smirked. "You got it, farmer boy." That night, the sky was clear. The stars looked down like cold witnesses. And then came the fire. Maddox's main storage barn lit up around 2:17 a.m. Flames reached 30 feet high before anyone made the first call. I watched from the ridge road above his property. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stood there, arms folded, watching smoke carry pieces of Roy's pride into the sky. By dawn, half the town was buzzing. Electrical short, the papers guessed. But everyone knew better. Roy knew. And he wasn't gonna sit still. Next afternoon, he showed up. No lawyer. No sheriff. Just Roy Maddox in a white button-down, fist clenched, rage boiling behind his polished boots. I was in the yard, oiling a fence hinge. He pulled right up, stepped out, and shouted, "You think this is over?" I stood. "This? Oh no. This is the middle." He marched toward me, hand hovering near his belt, not on a gun, but close enough to warn. "You crossed a line, Turner. I burned the whole damn map, Maddox." He lunged. And I didn't back down. We went to the dirt. Fists and boots and years of hate poured out in seconds. I cracked him in the jaw. He slammed me into the fence post. Blood. Dust. Grunts. And then the sound of a shotgun pump. Sheriff Morales, standing 10 feet away, badge gleaming in the sun. "Enough," he barked. We froze. "Next punch from either of you, and you're both spending the night in holding." Roy spit blood and stepped back. "This ain't finished," he growled. "It never started right," I said, wiping my lip. He climbed back in his truck, and as he pulled out, I saw her. Jolene. In the passenger seat. Eyes full of shame. Or maybe not. Maybe just acceptance. She'd chosen her side. So had I. Later that week, I got word that someone had slashed the tires on my feed delivery truck. No witnesses. No prints. But I didn't need proof. I knew whose message it was. So I sent my own. Digger and his boys came back, this time in daylight. They sat at the diner across from Roy's hired hands. Didn't say a word. Just ate pie. Watched. Next morning, Maddox's fields were sprayed with something foul, a mixture that made the whole south pasture smell like death. It wasn't poison, but no one would harvest from it now. The county started to buzz louder. Farmers whispered in barns, clerks leaned across counters. 2 ranches, 2 legends, at war. And nobody could pretend anymore. It wasn't about love. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about power. And only one of us was going to be left standing. 3 court dates in 1 month. I've been in more suits lately than funerals. And that says something, living in Texas. Roy wasn't done. After the fire, after the fights, after the field wars, he played his next card like a man born with a full house in his back pocket. He filed for ownership rights to part of my ranch. Said Jolene had invested in the land during our marriage. Said he helped finance one of our barns through a mutual friend. It was weak, but it was just strong enough to land us back in court. Clay Bremer read through the paperwork with a smirk. Son of a bitch has audacity. I'll give him that. Can we kill it? Eventually, Clay said. But it'll bleed you dry before we do. I sighed and leaned back in my chair. Then I guess we bleed. Meanwhile, I was selling anything that didn't grow or breathe. The second hay baler? Gone. Extra fencing? Sold. One of the ATVs I bought for the kids? Pawned. And still, Roy kept coming. He filed injunctions. Stalled my fall harvest by filing claims about soil toxicity. He even tried to freeze my accounts, said the ranch operated on laundered funds. I had to spend 2 days proving I wasn't some backwoods cartel boss. It was exhausting, expensive, and it was working. The worst came when Jolene filed her own suit. Custody modification. She wanted halftime. Said the kids were emotionally strained under my care. Her lawyer handed me photos, blurry, zoomed-in shots of me sitting on the porch with a beer or standing with Digger and his crew at the feed store. She's building a case, Clay warned. She's building a fantasy, I said. We went to court the following Thursday. Jolene was there. Roy wasn't, again. Coward. She looked like hell. Or maybe like someone trying too hard not to. Clean blouse. Loose curls. Thin gold chain I gave her 2 anniversaries ago. She avoided my eyes. The judge listened. Listened to her fake concern. Listened to her sob stories. Listened to her lawyer try to paint me as unstable. Then Clay stood up. Brought receipts. Photos of the kids playing at the ranch. Letters from teachers. Even a written note from Sheriff Morales confirming no active investigations tied to me. Then came the video. Clay pulled out a flash drive. This, he said, was captured by security footage from Turner Ranch. It's the night of July 9th. The courtroom screen lit up. There was Jolene, creeping onto my property in the dark. She walked to the barn, then crouched near the diesel tanks. The image zoomed. She had a phone in one hand and a lighter in the other. I heard gasps in the room. Clay didn't flinch. We believe she intended to start a fire. She was stopped by a motion light and fled. Jolene's face went pale. Her lawyer stammered. The judge slammed her gavel. We will not tolerate potential criminal activity in this custody hearing. Motion denied. Custody remains unchanged. Outside, Jolene tried to talk. Eli, I was drunk. I wasn't going to. I raised my hand. You already did enough. She broke. Tears poured. She fell to her knees on the courthouse steps. I walked past her. Didn't look down. Didn't stop. Not anymore. That night, I sat in my empty kitchen. Kids were sleeping. The dogs were quiet. Bills stacked high on the counter. One final notice from the bank staring up at me like a loaded gun. And yet, I smiled. Because Roy and Jolene were losing control. They had money. They had spin. But I had one thing they didn't. I had truth, and I still had my kids. And no court, no barn fire, no coward in boots was going to change that. The fall came early that year. The sky dimmed faster. The wind cut sharper. And the soil? It felt heavy, like it knew something I didn't. I was loading feed when Nate, one of my ranch hands, came up slow, boots dragging. You got a minute? He asked. Make it fast. He looked pale. Someone hit your east pasture last night. Fence cut. Kev's gone. 6 of him. I froze. Who? Nate hesitated. Then, Roy's boys. I bet my teeth. That afternoon, I drove to the site. Sure enough, fresh tire tracks. Boot prints in the mud. Fence wire clipped clean like it was done with cutters, not teeth or weather. The calves? Gone. No blood. No mess. Just absence. It was a message. Roy wanted to show me I wasn't untouchable. I came back boiling, storming through the barn like a bull. That's when I saw Dean, one of my younger hands, whispering into his phone. He froze when he saw me. I narrowed my eyes. Who was that? Nobody. Bullshit. He started to walk off. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the stall. The horses screamed. You feeding Roy info? I growled. No. I swear. Then why the hell is he 3 steps ahead of me every time? Dean's eyes started. Guilt all over him. He said I'd lose my job if I didn't. He paid me to tell him when you were gone. That's it. I swear. I saw red. I didn't think. I just swung. My fist cracked across his jaw. He hit the ground hard. Blood spilled. He tried to crawl. I grabbed him by the shirt and dragged him to the barn doors. You see this dirt, Dean? That's where my father died working. My kids play in it. My goddamn sweat built every nail in this place. I threw him out. You ever step foot here again, I'll bury you in it. That night, the sheriff showed up. Not Tom Morales. This was Detective Lang from Lubbock. Clean suit, stiff voice. We got a report of assault. Your name came up. I nodded slowly. You gonna arrest me? Not today. But we are opening a file. Lang looked around. At the old porch. The sleeping dog. The kids' bikes. You've made enemies, Mr. Turner. I smirked. They started it. But it got worse. Lang wasn't here just for me. He was sniffing around Roy, too. Turns out Roy's grain shipments didn't always match his records. Might have been fraud. Might have been laundering. And I had a friend at the Midland Star. A reporter named Tara who owed me a favor. I called her. Tara, you want a front-page story? What do you have? Roy Maddox's dirt. And it stinks. 3 days later, the paper hit shelves. Golden Rancher or Paper Cowboy. Maddox tied to possible agri-fraud. The photo was glorious. Roy stepping out of a courthouse, sunglasses on, scowling like a man who knew the walls were closing in. The article detailed years of over-reported harvests, suspicious grant applications, and anonymous sources confirming he'd paid off local inspectors. Anonymous, of course, being me. That night, Jolene showed up. Again. No warning. Just rage. You trying to ruin his life now? He ruined mine first. She got in my face. This wasn't about us anymore. You made it public. I laughed. It was public the second you unzipped your jeans in his truck. She slapped me. I didn't flinch. You picked a side, I said. And you're stuck with it. She stormed off. And I watched her go. Not with hate. Not with pain. Just with the cold certainty that I'd crossed a line. And I wasn't going back. The night before the last hearing, the wind changed. I don't mean that in some poetic way. I mean the air literally shifted. Dry heat swept down off the plains and turned everything brittle and sharp. My bones felt it. Like they knew something was coming. The final lawsuit was about ownership. Roy claimed Jolene had partial rights to the North pasture based on shared income, shared property, shared sin. His lawyer said I'd emotionally compromised her during the marriage. Said I created a hostile living environment. They threw every word they could at me: neglect, aggression, instability. Hell, they even brought up the fight with Dean. But Clay was ready. He stood there in his wrinkled jacket and tore through their case like a combine through deadstocks. Presented receipts, witness statements, historical deeds, even a notarized letter from Jolene's own father admitting the land was gifted solely to me after our wedding. By the time Clay sat down, Roy's lawyer looked like he needed a drink and a nap. The judge took a breath and ruled. All property shall remain under the sole ownership of Mr. Eli Turner. Petition denied. I didn't cheer, didn't smile, just nodded, stood, and walked out of that courtroom like a man walking off a battlefield, bloodied, battered, but still upright. It wasn't over yet, but it was damn close. Because while I walked out of court, Roy walked into a police cruiser. 2 Lubbock detectives waited outside. He tried to wave them off, tried to pretend they were just having a conversation. But I watched them cuff him, right there, in the street, in front of reporters. Apparently, Tara's story stirred more than gossip. Agri-fraud, wire fraud, misuse of federal subsidies. They didn't say much, but the cuffs said enough. A week later, I got a letter from Jolene. No return address. Handwritten. It said, "You won. I hope you're happy. I don't know who I am anymore." I folded it once and slid it in the bottom drawer of my desk. Didn't burn it. Didn't reread it. She wasn't mine anymore. And I wasn't hers. The kids stayed with me. That was the only thing that mattered. They asked about their mama sometimes. I gave them the truth, simple, calm, and clean. She made mistakes, but she loved you. That part's real. And then we moved on. The ranch never fully recovered. I lost acreage. Had to lease out sections to cover legal fees. Some neighbors still looked at me sideways. Others shook my hand a little firmer. But every morning, I got up before dawn, fed the stock, checked the fences, made breakfast for 2 sleepy kids. And every night, I sat on the porch, boots off, dog by my side, and looked out at what was left. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't big, but it was mine. Roy never came back. Not to court. Not to the county. Last I heard, he'd taken a plea deal, lost his land, got fined 6 figures. And Jolene? No one really knew. Some said she moved to Dallas. Others swore they saw her at the Greyhound station with 2 suitcases and tears in her eyes. Doesn't matter. Not anymore. One evening, as the sun dropped behind the ridge, my son asked, "Daddy, are we safe now?" I looked out at the golden fields, and I said, "Yeah, we are. Because even if they come again, lawyers, liars, fires, and fists, they'll find me waiting.